That's on purpose. It's on purpose. Hi.
Oh, now I can.
Didn't do anything.
What?
I didn't do anything.
Hi, everyone.
Sound now.
Hi, Steve.
I can't hear you. Could you turn your sound on?
Now you can hear me.
We are so punch drunk.
Yeah, I'm like 100% sober.
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
Hi.
We're out of it, dude.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Greetings from the planet Eros.
Eros?
Yeah,
Is
remember
that a
the
Star
remember
Trek
the
reference?
No, it's a 50s sci-fi movie called The Brain from the Planet Eros.
Oh, I don't know that
Because
one.
they were the creatures from another planet that were just floating brains in the air. And,
Yeah.
and there was the good brain and there was the bad brain. I wonder if that's where the bad brains got their name.
Wait, blurry? Bad video quality? It looks good on our end.
Yeah, you should probably stop watching it on your 80s Sony VCR.
It's better? Wait.
That's got to be you because all of our monitors look good.
Everything's solid? Looks and sounds fine? Okay, thanks, guys. Because, with us, you never quite know what you're going to get. We tried.
We tried
try every time.
We tried to screw it up worse.
Okay, so there's good and bad brains and what's it called? Something...
The brain from the planet Eros.
Ooh.
So some convict brain leaves his planet and comes to Earth.
A convict brain.
Yeah, and he's
It's a big
chased.
floating brain.
He's chased by the Secret Service of their planet brain, trying to take him back to justice and all of this.
Whoa. Okay.
And and so they inhabit humans so that they can communicate and move around on the planet Earth. And there was like this whole big
possession?
Yeah, there was this whole big thing where the bad brain thought that he had one up to everybody, and that he had destroyed the host for the good brain. But all he did was knock him out, and when he knocked the host of the good brain out, the good brain transferred himself from this human to the dog.
Oh.
There was a dog in the movie, so he was
good
like
brain dog.
He was like a
Saved
a
the
Lassie type dog, like
Sure.
a pointer or something. Cute dog, right? And
Yeah.
so of course 50s, the dog saves the day.
Old Yeller, Lassie.
Good dog.
Yeah.
You're a good boy. You saved planet Earth.
Oh, man. Okay. We had some friends hanging around before we came on here. Oh, yeah. Oh,
No,
yeah,
it was
Scott's ready for Niko-Chan'S.
it was a low budget movie.
So just how bad was it?
Yeah, it was so bad that I couldn't stop watching it when I was 11 or whatever it was.
Does anyone know who Niko-Chan is? Who the Japanese character is, or who the puppeteer on the channel
Man,
is?
you got to do your homework.
Well, that whole thing on here started in our first season, right? And I didn't know anything about this, but apparently you growing up in Seattle were watching the show called The Romper Room.
Mm-hmm.
But I never saw it growing up, but there was the Doobie is what it was called on The Romper Room?
Yeah, on the Romper Room was an internationally syndicated kids TV show that started out in Michigan or something like that.
Okay.
It was a local television show that got syndicated nationally and then internationally. And so there was the teacher in the class, and moralistic stories, and everybody's supposed to behave and be nice and have good manners and blah blah blah. And as an example of a good citizen and a bad citizen, they took the form of bees. There was the do be and the don't be.
Yes.
And the song was do be a do be, don't be a don't be. It was all just about kindergarten citizenship
Sure.
classes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
Don't
turns
be a
out
malcontent.
turns out there was a Japanese equivalent, and the doobie in the Japanese version was not the doobie, it was Niko-Chan. And Niko-Chan had that character had its own little poem. It wasn't a song, it was a poem that all the kids in the class recited
Okay.
in Japanese.
Oh.
And so we thought, I don't know, I think we were just talking about, because when the first couple of episodes of the show, I still am, but I was enamored of all these early 50s TV shows, comedy shows, stupid things, like Super Sales and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we just thought it would be funny to bring Romper Room to life, and in our twisted little
Yeah. If you
world
guys
that
can
we
find
created.
it in the episode that I think we introduced Niko-Chan, Steve put on quite the get up too. You had some really goofy glasses
Yeah,
with like
but-
Coke bottle lenses and a
yeah,
wig, and
yeah,
like you had a
yeah.
whole get
But
up.
Niko-Chan was a hit, and
Yeah.
for those of you who know, you're here. They're probably Niko-Chan's probably your most favorite character. Your personality
On this show?
Yeah.
Oh, by far.
By
Certainly
far.
my favorite.
Yeah, and so whenever we do a show that we don't have Niko-Chan, we get comments like, "Where's Niko-Chan?"
And I always want Niko-Chan to come on, but Niko-Chan unfortunately has a pretty sorry backstory. Like what's the whole, like, she's a torchy nightclub singer, alcoholic.
Oh, okay. I haven't inhabited that mindset for a long time.
So there's a lot of times that Niko-Chan doesn't really feel up to coming on. The offer's always there.
We did.
But we got Niko-Chan today.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great question, Brendan. Does Niko-Chan have an arch enemy? If she doesn't, she should. Maybe we should think about that for some
Oh,
future.
that's great. Brendan, we're going to mine that. That's a great idea. Oh, yeah. Like Boris and Natasha.
Yeah. Niko-Chant.
Yeah. So what have you been up to this week?
This week, the
Yeah.
last 3 weeks, 8-day weeks,
Been coming
Same.
out with new products?
just like you, 16-hour days,
Oh my God,
8-day
yes.
weeks,
Yeah.
and well, we just released the ZMAX, and everybody's going, wait a minute, there's all these things that you've been promising, and this thing is from out of left field, and what the hell? But cool, tell us more. And just everything. I know you're going through the same thing. Everything in our lives are accelerating right now
Yeah.
because we're deciding, I think you're doing this, I know I'm doing this, made the conscious decision to if there's an opportunity to do something, do it right now.
'Cause it
Strike
might
while
not
the
be there
iron's
tomorrow. Yeah.
Strike while the
Start
iron's
it
hot.
now. Yeah.
We've been talking about strike while the iron's hot for a couple of years, but it took us a while to inhabit that mindset of just, if something comes up, just get it out of the way, especially the simple, stupid things that take a minute. But
But nothing in your realm takes a minute, even when it kind of seems like it. I remember this piece. I remember the week that you had the idea,
yeah,
and it was kind of like, this ought to be able to hit the market in like 3 weeks. Like from mind, but to this, I remember the idea was within a month. But then it was like, it was right before you had to move the entire factory, right before you were leaving North Hollywood,
right.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things, like, I think you do have to hop on it and initiate it, because the opportunity might go away. But it's, no matter what, even with best laid plans, I mean, when did this come out? June? And I think the original idea was, let's get it out in August or September.
It was going to be April or May of this year. It was going to be already and done.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much all of the moving parts were ready and done by then. But at the same time, we just had a massive back order of everything that we make, not just the Power Station 2, not just the PS100, everything that we are making are disappearing as soon as we ship them. And it's a perfect example of that whole mentality of just jumping on it right now and getting stuff out there any way we can, whatever it is, finish it, get it out, move on to the next thing, blah blah blah. And by doing that, all the dealers are getting excited, so they're like going, oh great, something I can run with, and then they run with it. We kind of just sort of took it for granted that they wanted certain things, and if we threw them curves, they would just go, no, we just want the, don't confuse. It's not what's happening now. What's happening is, really? I'll take 4.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I'll take 10. Really? I'll take a
Yeah.
dozen. And so by trying to be more proactive, it's just, you never win. By trying to be more proactive, we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, but I think,
Because crap, we ran out of this part, or we ran out of that part, or we didn't have enough
Yeah.
manpower to do this. So we hired people to speed up the production. Of course, training time. You can't. Somebody doesn't come in and just start spitting out stuff. They're like,
think
no,
you can handle this ether?
no, you don't hold it like that. But it's not as simplistic as that. But training people, because we're very meticulous about how things go together, and then because there's more stuff going on and more quickly, I'm doing this. I see the production guys doing something kind of a clunky way, and I'm going, I can't really get on anybody's case about that, because that's just the way we've been doing it for so long.
Mm.
Only now, it's a real hindrance to do it that way. And I'm going, there's a way easier way to do this. There's got to be a tool, or there's going to be something out there. And, and so we're buying new tools and test equipment like every week. But
You're also revamping, like you showed me the employee manual that you've got to have now, like you're doing that in addition to all of these products. But and I think you mentioned it either in the last episode or the one before it, like there's a cool part of having all of these various projects in the loop, which is, you know, if you were just making, say, deliverances and power stations, it might feel like less harried, but in your realm of manufacturing, having these issues with suppliers for tubes or components or whatever, what happens when that breaks down? You're like, okay, we're waiting on this stuff to show up, and we got 3 weeks. But now you have all of these irons in the fire with all of these different products, and it's kind of like, all right, well, this one is slow down, and we're waiting for the stuff to
They're
get
doing
here.
this.
Okay, let's do this
and
one
this,
now.
and then this,
You know?
and then this, and like, okay, this one's got a little bit of velocity now. Let's just let
Yeah.
that. Let's enable that one until it runs into
Push
a
it
roadblock.
forward until it stops,
Until it stops,
and
and then
back out, and then go that way.
and then by the time that gets to like the next step, whatever the hang up on the other thing, on the other project was, gets unhinged
Right.
or unhooked somehow, and it's like, oh, like get this, a shipment, a huge shipment of tubes from China. All of a sudden, they're called suitcase companies in China. These companies that just file bad faith trademarks.
This is insane. I remember you telling me about this.
And they filed a trademark for Freyet in China, using our logo, using the photographs on our website, and we knew that that stuff was going on, and we do have a trademark filed for our brand in China, but there's different levels of it, and these people that do this kind of stuff, they know the little nooks and crannies, right? So
They're the bad brains.
yeah. So we have this huge shipment of tubes that are sitting at customs, and this company that absconded with our trademark notified customs that that there's another company using their trademark, and so all of our tubes are sitting at custom. We can't get them. So that was one thing that we had to resolve, and it's just like this thing. Then that gets solved a week later, and then this other thing pops up, and then another thing, and that's what drives this whole train of development. What's going to be the next obstacle?
Yeah.
And they all have an obstacle, but they all happen at different times. And so we've just sort of fallen into this thing of, instead of doing things in a linear fashion, we started this one first, we're going to finish it first before we go on to the next thing. And
It'd be nice.
That's the slow way. And people like you, our dear friends out there, are driving this trend for us, that the old linear model is obsolete. It's totally obsolete. So what it means is whatever we had on our list of projects to execute on that we haven't spoken to about anybody because we didn't know what, if, when, how, why, how, we just don't talk about that until it gets to a certain point. Some things get to a certain point and we've discussed it because we feel really confident that, oh, we're home free, and then something ridiculous gets in the way.
Yeah.
On the other hand, sometimes we just are really tight-lipped about things, and I think, well, this is a lot more sort of there's software involved, there's programming, there's this and there's that, and it just kind of the ZMAX turned out to be a low friction project. It had good velocity right from the very beginning. Although we started talking about it in mid 2019.
Yeah.
And of course COVID got in the way of that. The computer chips availability got in the way, shipping delays got in the way.
Other projects taking priority.
Yeah. So we just never really talked about it because it was kind of like a a different sort of direction for us. But I had this idea, and I'm following this idea more with more attention to the concept now, which is if there's something that we've got on our list of things that we're trying to accomplish that has a novel aspect to it, that we're not going to take it for granted that somebody else might not be thinking the same thing. And just we haven't seen it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not on somebody else's, grindomatic.
Yeah, that's
right?
fair.
So this latest sort of strike while the iron's hot mentality is really taking hold, and I just went, I don't want to finish this and have somebody go, So we just, all the moving parts of it kind of went together pretty smoothly. So we just went, it's done. Let's just put it out there. And people are like going, what? And that's great. That's a new kind of fun surprise for us, a new kind of a marketing sort of position to be in, which is like, I was waiting for this, and I'm patient, and I placed an order for that, and it's taken some time, and blah,
Right,
blah, blah.
right.
And we're sympathetic to that, but we're market forces being what they are, we do the best we can to knock those down and get past them. But in the meantime, here's the turtle in the back of the line just going loop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop, and all of a sudden, hey Michael, you got a little hole in your schedule because I got something I'd like you to do a video on. And he's like, yeah, send it over. And he's like, huh? He was, I don't know what he was expecting, but he wasn't expecting that.
Hey, just real quick, guys, totally see your questions, and we'll get to them shortly. Is it Michael has? Yeah, we'll totally have Steve answer your questions. We'll get there.
So anyway, the last month has been a real high concentration of that. But the other thing is the new facility, it's getting so dialed in that it's really enabling a lot more to that activity than.
Does it feel that way?
Oh yeah, it really feels like there's momentum in the building. It's there. It's wherever you walk in the building, there's something going on. There's momentum. There's a project being started. There's a project being finished. There's a thing that needs to be done, and then there's the day-to-day stuff, like the hottest day of, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, the hottest day of the week was the day that both the air conditioning
Oh yeah, you
in
were
the
talking
building
about
broke
that.
down.
Yeah. What a joy.
Yeah, so it's I'm having the time of my life. There are crazy things going on that get every once in a while get us running around and screaming, going, what the fuck, But
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just like,
I have to say, when I talk to you, even though I know you're swamped and I feel it, it always seems like you're basically in a really good mood. Like you're cranking and you're
I'm
in the
having
zone.
a
It's like
ball.
flow. You're in the flow.
I'm having a
state.
ball because
Yeah.
I get to do what I do best, which is get faced with the problem, identify the problem, find a solution, or figure out what might be a solution to the problem, and then execute on that solution and find myself on the other side of the problem. And I don't get all emotionally tied up in it like I used to. I just go, I'll sit this here for a second. I'm going to go take care of this right now because I know I can blah, 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 blah.
That rules. You want to take some questions?
Yeah.
And we'll bring Niko-Chan on in a bit. Let's see. So we did talk about Niko-Chan.
Yeah, we'll do the show and tell portion of the show with Niko-Chan after.
Yeah.
We take care of a couple of. Oh, and another thing that's coming up is we're launching our own dedicated support forum next week. So,
And where will that be accessible through?
it's at support.friet.com. It's a discussion forum format, but all of our
forum.
support is going to go through there.
Oh, okay.
So, people that have the basic questions. What if I have two cabinets that are 8, and what if I put them in parallel? What's that? You know, I mean, we get a ton of that. So,
Will Dave and Paul be on there? Who?
yeah,
Will they be moderators?
yeah, they'll be moderating it. I'll jump in every once in a while, but it's going to be a multi-tiered sort of a forum.
That's awesome.
And we're working on some of the more sophisticated features of it right now, which is actually doing the product repair, warranty repair, return authorization stuff. We're going to do that all through the support forum,
Oh, no kidding.
so that the end user will be able to create a service ticket, track it,
No kidding.
get information on what the status of it is.
Wow. It's like your own
And-
little Amazon.
And yeah, it's the only way, because the I instituted it because of the Cyclops and the ZMAX and all the other stuff that are coming out. It's just going to be a flood of the kind of questions that we always get. One guy last week, there were probably a dozen emails in both directions to assure this person that we were taking his issue seriously.
Mm-hmm.
His issue was, I have a power amp and I have a power station, and I mixed up the power cords in the two. And am I going to damage one of them by using the wrong power cord for it? They're both AC power cords,
Just the standard black.
standard black IEC power cords, but this one has this kind of writing on it, and this one has this kind of writing on it. So I don't want to mix them up and blow my amps. Well, somebody that this is,
Won't blow your amps, but it'll change your tone.
if you're listening, if the right person is listening to it, maybe, yeah.
Eric Johnson.
But I mean, we're coming to grips with the fact that we have reached such a larger audience than we've ever reached in the past. There are people out there that really have no idea of what these things mean and how they might impact their gear. And I spent a lot of money on this. I don't want to blow it up. So I mean, the concern is real. You guys listening to it might go, "That's just bonkers. What? It's a power cord." But you know, some people are very sensitive to things like that. But we can't be spending, half of a day communicating back and forth going, "It's okay, they're both the same. Well, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Here's another picture. You're good." So the forum is going to be the place to air out those things. And then when it comes to dealing with a specific issue that may result in a return authorization, a unit coming back to us, there'll be a private chat for that,
Oh, okay.
so that we can interact directly with the customer without somebody hijacking that conversation. But, well, why don't you just adjust the bias or something? I mean,
Lou. Yeah. Yeah, Chris is saying, this cord makes the tone sound the best. Lou's saying, as long as it's elevated 7 centimeters from the
yeah,
floor.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly, yeah. So, see, now, if we had if this was a legitimate support issue, there's always going to be the smartass that is going to come in and hijack that conversation, right? So we're going to have it so it partitioned in such a way that the individuals that are really going to initiate a service ticket will be in a private chat, so their
Great.
thing won't get hijacked,
Great.
number one. And number two, we'll get all the information that we need in order to execute on that. You have no idea how many times somebody says, I need a return authorization. Okay, name, address, phone number, serial number, model number, place of purchase, date of purchase. Give us that information, you get a return authorization. Yeah, I bought it at Washington Music. Okay, that was 1 out of the 9 questions that we asked you. Please answer the other 8. Here's my phone number. Okay, now we're down to 7. Give us the other 6, and by the way, give them to us all in one email. Okay, here's my address. What city is it in? Oh, the city is this. I'm not exaggerating, I'm not kidding. Sometimes it takes 25 emails to get all the information out of a customer that we need to do a return authorization. So now it's going to be, you don't even get into the partition chat
Until you
satisfy all of that criteria that we need to help you with your problem, right? We need that.
All right. Here's a question.
We know that you need us to help you. We need you to help us help you. And so now we're formulating a way to accomplish that. So that should really smooth out a lot of the roadblocks.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is Mover of Objects asking, my mains input on my power station is loose. Just received it 5 days ago. Is that normal? I imagine not.
I think, did you send a video about it? I think I saw a video. That might have been from you. The video showing that input connector moving back and forth. That's not normal. It might have been, I'm wondering if it could have been damage in shipping. It's a snap-in part. It snaps into the back of the chassis. It can move around a little bit and it won't come out. It shouldn't have very much lateral movement, but if you're plugging the power cord in, yank the power cord out, and that receptacle doesn't come out with the power cord, that means it's in there solidly. But with AC power, we don't like messing around with that. It should stay put. So your options there are to return it to the dealer for a replacement, or if you've got a local shop near you, we send a replacement part, and we cover the cost of replacing that replacement part if there's a local shop that you trust or somebody in your area that we deal with that can help you. So the resolution for that right now, until the support forum is really up and running, is to email support if you haven't already. Name, address, phone number, email address, serial number, date of purchase, place of purchase. Give us all that information, and we'll see if there's a local service outlet in your area. And if not, we'll issue you a return authorization to get it back. And if you've only had it for 5 days, then it's within it's called the DOA status, which means you had a problem with it as soon as you opened the box. And normally something like that, especially with AC power, where it's a consumer safety issue, a liability issue, we would provide you with a return label, so that you don't, so that it comes back to us, not at your expense. But you just have to put it in a box. We send you a label, you tape it up, drop it off at UPS, comes to us, we take care of it, get it back to you. A lot of people take that option because by the time they contact the dealer to get a replacement, the dealer's like, oh, I just sold out.
I don't have any,
Yeah, and we get a lot of this. Are you guys still in business? Because everywhere I look, the power stations are out of stock everywhere. And yeah, they are out of stock everywhere. And we're shipping every week, I promise you, we're shipping power stations to most of our dealers week in and week out. And by the time they get them, they're gone. And that's what's really happening. It's not that we're out of business. It's not that we're not building them fast enough. we're building them at the rate that we can build them reliably and to our satisfaction in terms of quality. And
What, you're not cutting
You know.
corners?
no, we're not cutting corners, and we're not going to cut corners. And I know that a lot of you people would like us to step it up, but that always comes with a deficit. There's always a cost in trying to ramp it up just to satisfy insatiable consumer demand. And I see all the time, well, Fryette just doesn't want to grow. Every business wants to grow. Every business. The mantra of business is to grow and make money. That's what a business is supposed to do. It's supposed to grow and make money. And do I want to be in control of a company that's 5 times as big as we are? Not without 5 times as much help. So that's an organic, time-consuming process. You don't just bring in 5 more production people and quintuple your inventory, go to the bank and get $1 million credit line, and then just fill up the warehouse full of inventory and just feverishly blast stuff out, have the quality suffer, and all of that. Then after you've done that, the economy tanks or some catastrophe happens like COVID, and you're out of business. And we've seen a lot of this. We've seen restaurants, we've seen retail outlets, online outlets. We see every day you see some major chain going bankrupt because they went crazy during the big resurgence after the COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
Where people were buying stuff like crazy, and all these retailers were just bringing in shit tons of inventory. And when that party stopped, they didn't have any line of credit left, and they're gone.
Yeah.
So,
It's like in fitness, the adage is, work out today so that you can work out again tomorrow. Like, you don't go so hard today that you're just, sore and laid up. The idea is to be able to do it continuously and over time, right?
yeah.
It's the
Hey,
same thing
Bent
with
Tom,
business.
by the way, Bent, I like your screen name, Bent Tom. That's great. And thank you for that. I don't really think that people are haters. I think that I think that end users are just as frustrated about getting their requests and their wants and needs satisfied, just in the same way that we are impatient and a little feisty about getting our needs and demands met. We had a supplier deliver us some parts, cabinet parts that were made wrong. And one of the things that I don't want to do anymore is personally inspect things that I shouldn't have to
Cap
personally
parts?
inspect. You have the spec sheet, you have the drawings, you have all the materials that you need to make these parts. There is zero excuse or reason for you to deliver them differently than specified. Zero. And I'm telling you, the minute that somebody brings in something that's off and you accept it, you're screwed. Because if you let them get away with it once, give them an inch, they will always do that. And I literally had a supplier tell me, well, it's not that different, and as long as it sounds as the way it's supposed to, isn't that what matters? And I went, I told you from the very beginning of our relationship, if you make me come in and oversee everything that you bring in, that's my time that you're taking away from me doing my job that I'm supposed to be doing, not babysitting your parts. The staff knows up to a certain point what we're receiving and what the quality should generally look like. But they're also sharp enough to notice that I don't think this looks right, but I don't really know if I'm being too picky. Let's go get Steve. And I just go, and
I don't want to.
by the time I'm 5 feet away from it, I'm going, take it back. And, you know, I mean, it's a guy, oh man, you're really hardcore. You brought me back into the warehouse to inspect something that should not have needed my personal input because you purposely did it wrong, trying to cut corners. And that's what causes companies to cut corners. Their suppliers cut corners, and the suppliers' suppliers cut corners. And everybody does it until it's impossible to make a good quality product.
That's how you wind up with 79 Strats, 1979. Boat anchor pieces of shit.
Oh. Or 79 boat anchors.
Death by 1,000 slight variances and tolerances, and then you're like, what the hell is this thing? Well, it's a Stratocaster. Like, no, it's not.
I call it continental drift.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It's just all these little bits and pieces are going along,
Yeah.
and they're supposed to go like this, but they're also doing a little of this, and then one day I'll go, what the hell's going on out here?
Entropy.
Entropy.
Way.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
And the more that you try to be efficient, the more you try to be conscientious, the more you try to deliver the goods, the more you realize that entropy concept, it's really insidious.
Oh, man.
It's like you know, the closer you look at it, the more you see of it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's unavoidable in our individual lives. When you're running in an organization, it's like exponential.
Yeah.
Because everybody, you know, on the team, even when they have best intentions, are kind of running everything through their own little lens and
Right.
interpretive
And in
circuitry.
And in the
You have
past,
10 people going,
right. And in the past, I was the arbiter for all that, the final arbiter, and I finally said, "This is the line. If I have to get dragged back into this, you know, it's the
yeah.
I think I'm out, and I get pulled back in. You know, it's that the Michael Corleone." You know, so I have to draw that line, and if I keep getting pulled back in, then the person who's responsible for me having to keep getting pulled back in has to get the talk. This is the last time we have this conversation.
And not within Fryette,
Yeah.
but with the suppliers.
Yeah, which is
Because it's not a problem for your people going, hey, Steve, you got to look at this.
right.
That's
right.
wonderful.
Right. But at what point does it become, all right, if I switch suppliers, I have to start this whole process all over again with a new guy, train them, show them, let them know what we can, what we accept and don't accept. And it's like you said, the employee manual. I think, what is it, 130 pages or something like that? All the things that California labor law requires you to have in an employee manual. It's just like the administrative side of it. Hey, you got to have it, you know. But we built more and more documentation to explain to suppliers what we're looking for. So before, when we would just like go, oh, you make these sheet metal parts, great. Okay, here's a purchase order. Let's see how you do. Now, we all go inspect the factory to see what kind of machinery they really have, what kind of staff, you know, what kind of oversight, how
Wow.
clean is the place.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. It's a big deal when you go into a sheet metal manufacturing facility and there's garbage everywhere. It's a bad sign. We actually had a Japanese distributor come and visit us a few years ago, and we knew they were coming and they were important people.
Okay.
And we had the restrooms cleaned within an inch of their lives, because it's a big thing in Japanese culture.
I wish it was big in American culture.
Yeah,
too,
really.
To be honest.
So the we had a meeting. They came and visited the factory. We showed them the whole place. Wow, it's really clean and organized around here. Nice. Blah 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 blah. And then we had the meeting, and yeah, everything sounds really good. Blah 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 blah. The guy goes, "Excuse me, where's the restroom?" And down that way, and he comes back and goes, "We really want to work with you guys." And
The restroom
and,
test.
yeah, yeah. And he says, "By the way, your restroom is spotless. That's awesome." You know, I mean, that was what clinched it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's and of course you've seen how awesome our new bathrooms are.
Well, you know what? I'll say this, and then we got to move on to another question. Your bathrooms have always been clean at your factories.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
In fact, the last facility that
And
we were
they
in,
smell nice too.
we had an ongoing battle royale about the tiles. Normally in a bathroom, this is what you came for, right? Normally the linoleum tiles in a bathroom, they don't have linoleum tiles anymore, because the little pieces that are adjacent and touch together and blah blah, but there's cracks in there, and stuff goes down inside the cracks and builds up, and it gets really smelly.
Okay.
And we basically said, we want you to come and replace the flooring in the bathroom. It's so bad. It can't even be fixed anymore.
Yeah.
And they kept fighting us and fighting us and fighting us. Well, we finally found out why. It's because they were selling the building and they didn't want to spend any money on it. And by the way, our old factory that we were in 8 months ago, 9 months ago now, maybe 10, it's actually, we left there in September, the beginning of September. So it was a year ago now.
Yeah.
That we had to be out in 30, they told us you had to be out in 30 days, and it took us 90 days to get out. They did us a huge favor by doing that, by the way, because the place we're in now is fantastic. But the reason they told us that we had to get out so quickly is because the bulldozers are coming to knock down this building. We're starting new construction. That was 10 months ago, 11 months ago. They just bulldozed it last week.
Wow.
So,
wow.
so those assholes are probably eating shit financially right now.
Wow. Alyssa, look. She knows what this is. I drink these constantly during the summer times.
Let's get to some fun stuff.
No, not yet. You have to answer this. This is important. Yeah, I think it's kind of a two-parter.
I tiled the Fryette B room for a PS100.
Okay.
You're going to get your PS100, trust me. It's coming down the pike.
All right, so this is a two-parter. I have a PLIR running off a power station attenuating.
Serious
50
question, what?
Hz.
You don't think we've been having a serious conversation here?
The power station effects loop has some delays and reverbs in it.
Uh-huh.
How do I record the amp through the PLIR, but recording the elements in the effects loop too? So you're running the effects loop, wait, the power station effects loop.
But he's saying PLIR.
PLIR.
He's talking about the headphone loop in the PLIR.
I have a PLIR running off a power station attenuating an SC50
Are we looking at the
head.
same question?
Look, it's a two-parter. This is the first part.
I have a PL running off the power station.
Attenuating an SE50 head.
Right?
And the power station has the effects loop.
Yeah.
How do I record the amp through the PLIR, but recording the elements in the effects loop? So he's going SE50 into the power station, coming out of the power station into the PLIR? Is that what it is?
And you want to put effects in the PLIR effects loop and have them come out in stereo to record them. And the way to do that is to use the headphone out as a stereo line out. So if that's your question, that's the way to do that, the only way to do that. But I don't think I would do it that way, but some people just want to put effects, they want to load an amp. I get what you're doing here. I think I get what you're doing here. You have an amp, you put it into the power station, and then you put the power station into, and we've done this here, put the power station into the power load to get the IRs, and then I'll want to put reverbs and delays after the IRs and go into my DAW or front of house or whatever. So the only facility for doing that with the PLIR is to take the headphone out and split it into two discrete left and right signals and plug that into effects and get a stereo mix that way.
I take the line out of, if I'm, like I've done this before, I'll run ahead into the power station,
Mm-hmm.
take the line out of the reactive load of the power station, and just run into a stereo delay pedal, take the stereo out to the delay pedal into my DAW, and then use an IR within my
Right.
that's within Logic.
That's the more straightforward way of doing it. Some people feel like, well, it has this facility in the unit, in the product, to do that, but a lot of times it's more of a Rube Goldberg doing it that way than just doing it the more logical way, which is to try to, I mean, really this is a misunderstanding about what the effects loop and the power load's purpose is. The purpose of the effects loop and the power load is to allow you to put a stereo reverb and delay into the headphone amp, so when you're listening to when you're playing your amp loaded into the PLIR, you get some room sound in headphones. That's really the purpose of that, so that it doesn't sound dry and you have a stereo image, so you feel like you're in a room rather than having this mono image in the middle of your head that's kind of dry. So that's really the purpose of the stereo effects loop in the power load. And that's honestly why we're going to stop having that, a newer version. We're kind of thinking about where the power load is going to go next, and it's not going to have a headphone out in it, because there are much better ways and more professional ways of getting a headphone mix by using a DAW, putting the IRs, either having good IRs in the unit or having the IRs in your DAW, and add those post.
Yeah.
Then it really sounds pro, and when you listen to it on cans, you feel like you're in, in Staples Auditorium by comparison. So that's why I say, yeah, you can do it that way, but it's almost like I want to do it that way because I have these two things and I want to use them both together, and great, but there's just more effective ways to do it by separating the jobs. Like, you don't have to put your amp into the power station to attenuate it and then put it into the
power station
load
doesn't
to
need to be a
play
part of that.
silently.
Yeah.
You can just go from the head right into the power load silently and then line out of that.
But you can do two things in that.
Okay.
You can choose, do I want it to kind of be more like effects in the effects loop,
Mhm.
in which case you can do what I just described, where you're coming out of basically the line out of the PLIR. You're not using the IR out.
I just happen to have one right here, so we can.
Yeah. So then you're running the PLIR without
So you're
the
saying
IRs. So we're going to come out of this sucker.
the direct line out. You're not even using the IRs.
Exactly. So then that's almost like running the amp into a load box and then into like an effects loop or your effects in a rack.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll go into my effects there,
Right.
into the DAW,
Right.
and then you apply the cabinet or the IRs within the DAW.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other thing is, you can go, no, I want it to be more like the studio environment where the effects are going on last, so you could come out the IR out of the PLIR. This
Oh.
sucker.
The old jive connector that we've dumped because it kept popping out when you yank on it.
I have one of those. But this one, this is like coming out of your cab, and then you're putting your effects on after the entire guitar rig,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I'll do either one of those,
Mhm.
and they both sounds amazing. But then it's like a much more streamlined rig that way. No power station involved because this has the same reactive load that the power station has. You know, unless you were doing like what I never do myself, that convoluted way where you actually can you explain that real fast? When you're using the power station, you actually go out to your speaker. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What do you call that?
Well, you're using the cab as a through, so the cab becomes the reactive load.
Yeah.
It bypasses the internal reactive load, and the cab becomes but it's at full volume. So if you have your cab in a room or something, and you mic that, that's cool. You could do that, and you can have the mic on the cab, and then you can have the IR coming out of there on another track, and you can blend them, and do this or that. I mean, this is one of the problems of making products that do multiple things. And there are a lot of things out there that do multiple things, but not all at once. And I just look at that and go, why did you put these 5 features in there, but you can only do 2 or 3 at a time? It would be, just make them all work. And then the person doesn't have to go, well, it won't work if I do this or if I do that. That doesn't always work, but most of the time it does work. And most of the time I try to do that where if there's 5 key features that really matter to how you're going to use the product, I'd like the idea that you can use them all simultaneously, even though
Yeah.
probably a lot of people don't,
Yeah.
but you could.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more fun than demonstrating it. Okay, out of that speaker you're hearing blah, and out of this one you're hearing blah, and out of this one you're hearing blah, blah.
Yeah.
And of course, once I do a demonstration like that, you can just see the eyes cross.
You know,
And the
I just want to
brains
say
start
this
to melt down.
before we move on, and also I want to make sure that Michael got an answer that is helpful and makes sense to him. But oh wait, but the way that I would use the power station, since you have a power station and a PLIR.
So he's saying how he uses it and why he wants to use it that way.
Did he just put that on? Oh, okay.
Amanda, I just want to hear how you're doing because I haven't.
Oh, Amanda's on. Hey,
I haven't
Amanda.
seen you for either you've been here and I haven't paid attention, or we screw it up by having such a wacko schedule. Oh, and we were talking about making things a calendar item so that we constantly get a reminder. It's gotten to the point where to do this show, we have a reminder every week that we have to stay focused on our daily lives so that we don't forget that we're trying to download the latest and the greatest that's going on with us in between all the mayhem that's going on. I can't express how much fun I'm having. I like a challenge. I like solving problems. I like having a lot of things to do. I like not being bored. And I like finishing something I started. And so,
that's the best.
and if I can finish something, I'm getting more and more into finishing something.
All right, you
And
ready
we'll
to
talk
answer
about
another
that.
question?
Yeah.
Attenuator with various speakers. The ZMAX no effects loop. Use the attenuator with various speaker and amp Z.
See, the a flying V, awesome. I've never been able to play a flying V. It's never been my instrument of choice, but I do love the way they look. And my favorite person playing a flying V was Albert King. It sat on the top of his chest right here. And he played through solid, clean, high-powered solid-state amps. So when he bent that high note, man, it went through you like a bullet. It was the most awesome thing. And he's like 6'2" and weighed 300 pounds. And he would stand on his tiptoes when he would bend a real high note. He would go like and dance on his tiptoes when he was going for this high note. And the look on his face was like, I'm going to levitate any moment now. That was wonderful to watch.
So there is no effects loop in the way that we think of an effects loop in the ZMAX.
Okay, let's talk about what is the use the attenuator with various speakers and amp Z. Use the attenuator with various speakers and amp Z. That let me.
In amps? Is that what that meant?
I
Use the
think he's
attenuator
talking
with-
about Z amp impedance, which is the Z and ZMAX.
Which is, yes.
So, if I understand you correctly, I think you're asking the question that I knew would be probably one of the first detailed tech questions of a ZMAX on this show, and it's already been popping up in the videos, which is, so, Stephen, feel free to jump right in and tell me if I'm off base or nailing it, what you're asking. Does putting the power station in the attenuator loop of the ZMAX defeat the purpose of the impedance matching function of the ZMAX? I'll give you a second to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, and then I'll answer it because I'm sure I'll have everybody's attention by then.
You want to talk about flying Vs until then?
No,
I've never owned a flying V.
I've had my flying V moment. Okay, he
All right,
says
okay,
yes.
cool.
All right, great. If you've noticed in the videos, the back view of the unit, it says patent pending on it. So as far as getting granular about what's going on in there, I'm a little bit limited in what I can disclose. But what I can tell you is this. It does not. Putting the power station or any attenuator in the attenuator loop does not defeat the purpose of the impedance matching functionality of the ZMAX. Part of the reason, I can't really discuss why at the moment. But what I can tell you is this. You put the heads in the ZMAX. They're the first thing in the chain. So the guitar plugs in to the input. The ZMAX sends that guitar input to any one of the 4 amps.
Are you looking at the front panel or back right
The
now?
back. So you've got the 2 amp input 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then from amp output 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's the first thing that happens is you've got your signal going to the amp input and the speaker output from the amp output going back into the ZMAX. So you're selecting one of those 4 amps to play through. The next thing that happens is the signal goes to 2 effects loops in series. The first one is the top one, which is the unswitched attenuator loop. You'll see to the right of the jacks, the text sideways on the top 2 attenuator loop jacks says switched. I can't even read that. And
Switch to normal.
Yeah, switch to normal. So the normal jacks are in circuit at all times. The switched ones are the ones that are turned on and off by the loop button on the front of the ZMAX. So there are two attenuator loops in series. The theory behind that is that you may want to get rid of the attenuator for some amp and speaker combinations. You may want to turn it off. You don't want to unplug it. With the power station, you can just switch it to bypass. But the ZMAX basically has a second attenuator loop that you can bypass and make that a preset. The other one is the unswitched one that's in the circuit at all times. And the idea there is that you could put another attenuator in there that has another form of bypass switching. So it's just trying to give you a little bit of flexibility there.
And we didn't talk enough about it. And,
Yeah, we're gonna have
I didn't want to
Yeah,
make
it's
it
a
too
lot.
long.
It's a lot to pack in, but
Yeah.
and we're not going to get in too deeply into that now. But basically, the amp outs get selected. They get sent to the normal loop, and then out of the normal loop, they go into the switched loop. So you basically could have two attenuators in series. One of them switched so that you can turn one or the other off by whatever means you turn them on or off. Assuming that you have one attenuator in the system operational, the amplifiers see that, and then after that it goes to the transformer matching circuitry, and out of the transformer matching circuitry off to the speaker outputs.
Mhm.
Now, here's why you can put an attenuator in that loop and it won't defeat the purpose of the matching. The signal will go to the attenuator, and what you'll do is with the power station, you'll set the input and the output both to 8 ohms. And then the attenuator will send the signal to the impedance matching circuitry and then to the cabs. So you will still set the impedance selections to the impedance of the amp and the impedance of the cab. And it's just a feature of the way transformers work, and partly a feature of the way this specific transformer behaves, that it will see what the amp impedance is trying to do and what the speaker impedance is trying to do, and it'll be effectively neutral with regard to the impedance. The impedance matching transformer will take care of that. So the amp will see the load it wants to see, and the speaker will see the load it wants to see, and the attenuator, when it's set with the input and the output impedance the same, will have very little impact on that. You're going to be attenuating the amp anyway, so you're going to be altering the dynamic range of the amp by having the power station in there or any attenuator in there. Mm-hmm. Whether you set both the input and outputs of the power station to 4, 8, or 16 won't really matter that much. What you would hear is a slight difference in level when it's in versus when it's bypassed. Very, very subtle difference in level, which you can compensate by just turning the volume on the power station a little bit, up a little bit, so that when it's bypassed, it's the same volume as when it's active. But because of the behavior of the transformer and the reaction and the interaction between the transformer and the speaker and the amplifier and whatever the attenuator is doing, the thing is you still have a relatively close load all the time on the amplifier and no risk of damaging it. You get the attenuation activity, and all you get is a subtle difference in it's called insertion loss. When you go through a bunch of circuitry like that, you're bound to lose a little tiny bit of signal level, but you also have the ability to recover it. So there isn't anything that's going to damage anything, and the most important thing is you won't get that funny mid-range shift that you would normally experience when you plug the amp into a cabinet and you've got a real full-blown mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the skinny on that, and you can prove this yourself. And I should also mention that there is a secret little, it's only a secret in that we haven't finished publishing the manual yet. It's a feature that's
I alluded to that in the video.
it's a
I think I
feature
called it
that's
secret.
key to the operation of the ZMAX that we have to discuss. But one of the things that the ZMAX does to make sure that you're operating at the right impedance is if you have a 16 ohm head and a 16 ohm cab, or an 8 ohm head and an 8 ohm cab, or a 4 ohm head and a 4 ohm cab, the transformer bypasses. It's not even in the circuit. It goes around it because you don't need it. You'll only need it when you need it. However, if you put an attenuator in there and you want to get the benefit of the transformer sort of balancing and equalizing what's going on between the speaker and the cab with an attenuator in the circuit, you can activate the transformer even when the impedances are the same. And the manual will get, we're going
So
to,
you can do that without the attenuator in there. So you can say, this is what it sounds like without the transformer. This is what it sounds like with the transformer. And you can nerd out and decide whether or not it's destroying your tone.
Yeah, right.
Right? It's not transparent enough. So
Yeah.
you built that in. Like,
Right.
all right. The
basically just to prove you that, okay, you want to know if it's transparent? Here, we've made a feature in there that not only demonstrates that it is, but
That's super
also
cool.
gives you the ability to take advantage of the transformer's behavior to balance what's going on between the speaker and the transformer and the amp and the transformer, whether or not you have an attenuator in the circuit. So that's the trickiest part, and it's a big mouthful to describe. Joe's going to do another video about it, and
You're going to do a video about it too.
I'm going to
this
do
week.
a video about it. My grandmother's going to do a video about it.
Niko-Chan'S,
Santa
we'll get
Claus is
Niko-Chan.
going to do a video about it. And if Lemmy was around, he would definitely not do a video about it.
Okay. I want to make sure that we're not missing things that we haven't covered with questions here before we do show and tell. Oh wait, here we go.
By the way, I saw that question pop up a bunch of times, and I knew it would. But I had
The one you
already,
just answered?
yeah, and I already verified it before. But just to be 100% sure, I went and ran the test again yesterday at the shop because I don't like a steel-toed boot up my butt any more than anybody else does.
All right, this question is from Chris Stark. And Chris asks, can you talk about the history of the early 90s Pitbull Ultra Lead combos? Because Chris has one from, I guess it's December 16th, 1993. Signed and everything.
That would have to be a classic or a CLX because we never made an ultra lead in a combo. So, sure it's an ultra lead? Does it say ultra lead on it? Because
Chris also says he's the lefty guy.
he's what?
The lefty guy. Do you know the lefty guy? You recall the lefty guy?
My brother's a lefty. You know, it just occurred to me that he's a lefty. I'd forgotten all about that. Sign in everything.
Oh, Chris is saying it says classic.
Then it's not an ultra lead. Okay, good. I'm not high. 93. Classic combo. Knobs in the front or knobs in the top? We could play this all night.
That's why you're here.
Ah!
Wrong-handed.
Amanda, you're totally right on. I love you. wondering how many questions are asked just to settle an argument because your answer is the only proper answer.
So Chris is saying the knobs are on the front with the EQ,
Okay.
the EQ part.
Okay. 93.
Right.
Well, that was our first encounter with, as soon as you make a head of something, you immediately get asked, "Can I make a combo of that?" And as soon as you make a combo of something, "Gonna make a head of that?" And it's kind of always been my impression that the people that ask for the combo of a head rarely want the combo. They really want the head, but they are buying the combo because kids, wife, space, trunk,
I love
budget,
combos,
you know.
man.
I always thought that it was crazy to make a combo of such a big amp, but there was so much demand, it just had to be done. We have to have it. I go, it's not going to sound like this half stack, right? Wow, you made such a great sounding amp. You're going to make it just a half stack sound like a full, a combo sound like a half stack. And talk about pressure. So actually, the history of that's what gave rise to the graphic EQ that everybody associates with the Ultralead.
Oh, wow.
And thinks that we did that because to compete with Mesa.
Wow.
And the reality was, it was the only way I could think of to put two high-powered speakers in an open back cabinet and make it sound even remotely like a half stack, because the speakers would not sound like the speakers you would normally put 4 of them in a sealed back, closed back 412 cabinet. And if you made a combo sealed back, it's a much more rigid assembly because the chassis is in there, the back covers, there's 2 speakers, they're higher powered speakers to be able to handle the
It's
lows.
heavier, and then it's like, just get a cabinet.
Everything is stiffer and less forgiving and less fun to play through.
Yeah.
All so that it could be masquerading as a compact accoutrement, which it was. There's nothing compact or convenient about an 85-pound combo amp, as anybody who ever played a twin would know. But people just like to punish themselves, so we made those amps for a fair amount of time. And when I started developing it, I went, the only way that we're going to have any hope of getting the speakers to voice even remotely like it was sort of a half stack sounding thing was to be able to tweak the amplifier sound so that the speakers would sort of sound like some kind of a 412 cab kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent a lot of time developing this 6-band graphic EQ to do just that. And so it was an option with the heads. People started asking, "Oh, I want the head with the EQ in it. We only made the EQ for the combos. Why?" So that you could dial in the speakers so it would sound better. Well, then you ought to be able to do the same thing for head too. And I'm like, and it became an option on the heads because we really didn't think that it made much logical sense to do that. All we were trying to do was make the combo sound like the head and cab. So why wouldn't we put the EQ in the head and cab? And well, Mesa does it. Like, well, that's not the reason we did it in the first place. So why should that be the reason that we do more of it now? And that was that was in the old days when I had a whole lot more piss and vinegar in me about why we did the things we did and why we didn't want to do the things that we didn't do. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that became the thing, and then the Ultralead, which started out as a real dark horse that didn't sell very well, as soon as Page Hamilton started using it, it took off. And he wanted the EQ one, of course. Well, I got to have the EQ. And I said, Paige, as soon as you get familiar with the amp, you're never going to use the EQ again. No. 3 months later, he had the EQ all taped off so that it wouldn't get moved. And he never uses it, but he still wants an ultra lead with the EQ in it, because you never know. So that's kind of the story of the classic in the combo having EQ that sort of evolved and snowballed into the ultra lead is the ultimate amp, and the EQ is what's ultimate about it, and why we ended up putting it in the Synergy module, the ultra lead module, because we knew that we would get all kinds of hell if we didn't. So,
It's part and parcel, dude.
yeah, yeah. I got my reasons.
All right. Another question.
Mandy, you're killing me. Hey Simon, thanks for your great comments and kind comments on the other on the video chats and all that. I really appreciate it.
All right, next question. Never checked with my Power Station 100, but will my amp sound different at 4, 8, and 16 ohms through the Power Station when I match my cabs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this goes back to why you can get away with using the Power Station in the loop of the ZMAX, which is it's the behavior of the cab that's driving how the amp behaves. And the cabinet, if you have a stereo enabled cabinet that has, excuse me, the switch on the back that you can set it to either 16 or 4 ohms, when it's wired as a 4 ohm cab, the speakers interact differently with each other. So you have a 412 cab and you have all the speakers, all 4 16 ohm speakers in parallel. They damp each other more. When you have them in series parallel, you have to have them in series parallel because otherwise you'd have to wire them all in series, and that would be 64 ohms, and there aren't any 64 ohm amps, and there aren't any 32 ohm amps, which is what you would get if you had a 212 and wire with 16s and wired them in series. So you're kind of stuck. You have to wire the speakers series parallel, and so when the speakers are operating 16 ohms, the amplifier damps differently, and what that means is energy comes out of the amp and drives the speaker, and a little bit of the energy from the driven speaker flies back into the amplifier circuitry.
Flyback voltage.
And they do this little flyback thing. At 4 ohms, they do it less. And this is really why solid-state amplifiers sound so dry and lifeless as guitar amplifiers, because they have very, very low impedance, especially the ones that are being made these days on the order of a half an ohm or less. So what they're doing is trying to, the lower the impedance, the more current will flow through the output devices, and that means more power to the load. But guitar players aren't really looking for more power. They're not looking for 1,000 watts of RMS kill power. They're looking for a behavior and a sound. So the solid state ethos doesn't really fit into that. Consequently, they aren't very well received. I mean, they can sound pretty good and they can work for a variety of situations, and there are exceptions to the rule, like the jazz chorus, the Roland Jazz Chorus JC120, which actually worked because they weren't a very good solid state power amp. They were kind of like a
interesting,
poorly performing solid state power amp circuit, and kind of an antiquated design, and that's sort of why it worked. And also, of course, it was intended to be clean. So if you ever
think that was intentional?
If you ever overdrove a JC120, you would know why that was such a bad idea.
Oh, it's the nastiest.
It's heinous.
That was a clean amp.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was how
So-
you needed to run it.
Yeah, so that's the deal there. That also flows over into the discussion about the impedance curve and why when I look at a graph, my amp is supposed to do this. Well, unfortunately, the frequency response graph and the impedance curve graph of speakers are derived from a test jig that involves a solid state amplifier
Right.
at a very low power, like 1 watt. And so it's always entertaining watching people like go berserkatroids in the forums over which attenuator has a screwy load that's going to blow the output transformers in my amplifiers, because most people don't really understand the graphs that they're looking at and what they represent. They only see a picture and go, aha, I see it went wee, and that's bad. And but they don't know why it goes wee. They just know that somebody else said that that's bad, and so it's bad. I like that person, so if he says it's bad, then he's right, whether or not it's technically correct. He's my friend. That's what I'm going to go with. And it never ceases to be a complicated mess when you try to explain to people what's really going on with amplifiers and loads. So I try not to. I'm trying just not to engage in that anymore because it's fruitless. The point is, we came up with a system that works, that satisfies players, that gives you the options to build out a rig that will inspire you to plug in more things together and do funny things with them and go, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
And do funny things with them.
Yeah, I mean, that a few shows ago where I had the Cyclops and the Friedman IRX and the power station and the Deliverance and the power load all connected together with all the foot switches needed to operate all of it. We didn't even spend I spent probably 4 hours setting it all up to getting it sound great, and we spent all of 3 minutes playing through it.
You've done that a lot.
Yeah,
on
but that
these
was
shows.
the fun part.
Yeah.
You know what? The fun part was getting it, turning it on, and not having any hums and have everything work. It was just like, okay, well, that was worth it
You're
all
like
by
a little kid when that happens.
that was worth it all by itself. I could just go to bed, and hopefully it was a Friday, and then I'll really play through this on Saturday. And then, of course, you don't. You had to take the car to the shop, or you had to go, do something else. There was an emergency, or your whole weekend
You had
gets
to watch 50 sci-fi shows.
yeah,
just
your
sat
whole
on the
weekend gets
couch all
blown
weekend.
by whatever the hell it is that your weekend gets blown by. Oh, so my new remedy for the lost weekend is to not have a weekend. We've been
Just cram. I know.
for the last weekend.
That's my life.
We've worked on Saturday and Sunday for the last 3
That's so
weekends in a
funny
row.
because we had to move this to Sunday because of things that I had going on. And I remember asking you, hey, is it all right if we move to Sunday? Will that work for you? You said, well, we actually try and keep Sunday as a day off for us. But you know what? We never accomplished that. So
yeah, resistance
let's
is
just do the show on Sunday because it never works.
yeah,
anyway.
resistance
There's
is
no
futile
weekends around here.
right?
Yeah, forget it. Okay, so ready for another question? I want to make sure we get through these before we bring Niko-Chan on. This is a synergy question
All right.
from Buck Wild. The question is about the SYN 5050. Is there no 16 ohm output for a 16 ohm mono cab? Seems it's only 842 in mono. Stereo you can get 16 ohm. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Done.
Next, no. The 5050 and the LX2 in a solid state amp, when you run a stereo solid state amp in bridge mono,
Yeah.
you're running the two outputs in series.
Okay.
When you're running it in a solid state stereo power amp in stereo, you've got a hot and a ground for the A channel and a hot and a ground for the B channel.
Okay.
But when you switch it to bridge mode, and that's where the term came from, you're bridging the speaker between the hot side of the A channel and the hot side of the B channel. And the way it works is channel A is up here, channel B is down here, and the speaker is wired in between them. So the two power amps are doing like this around the speaker, and that's how the speaker is doing this.
It's for crosstalk.
It's the
Interesting.
one channel of the amp is doing the positive waveform swing,
Yeah.
and the other channel is doing the negative.
Yeah.
So the speaker output is swinging between the two.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're squinting. I'm sure everybody else is too.
I try and hold on, dude. Like I say, I'm just like.
On a tube amp, it doesn't work that way, and that's because of transformers. In a tube amp, to get it to bridge, you actually have two output transformers and you wire them in parallel. And when you do that, then you take the phase inverter from just one channel and drive both sets of power tubes with that phase inverter. So it's really mono in the effect that you're only using the A part of the front end of the power amp, and you're using the A and B part of the back end in parallel. And that causes the power tubes to be effectively operating in parallel, which cuts the impedance in half. And that's why you see on the back of the SYN 5050 and the LX2, the top row of impedance markings say 4, 8, and 16, and below the top jacks it says 2, 8, 2, 4, and 8, because that's what they become when you combine the transformers together and have all the power come out the A speaker jacks. You're using the A mono input and the A speaker jacks out, but both the power amps are driving through the A. And that's why you only have 2, 4, and 8. Fortunately, it's enough reserve power that you're probably never going to use all of it. So really, it's an impedance mismatch if you run the bridged 8 ohm out into a 16 ohm load, but it's pretty well controlled, so you don't really have to worry about damaging your output transformer. Really, you're only going to damage the output transformer if you're initiating a big flyback voltage, which you usually are not doing.
How would you do that? How does that happen?
When you have too high of a load impedance for a given output impedance, or no load, for example. What happens is a bunch of voltage gets stored up in the output transformer, and then it gets released really quickly backwards into the tubes.
Oh.
And so if the transformer is not made very well, the signal can actually jump across the wires, the insulation and the wires inside the transformer, and cause it to arc and short out.
Oh.
And all it takes is a little pinhole, a little tiny pinhole of 2 wires that are side by side. All it takes is a hole the size of the diameter of a pin to kill an output transformer in some amplifiers. And that's kind of how the Schultz Power Soak got the reputation for being an amp blower, when it was one of the first real commercially successful attenuators out there. It didn't have a reactive load in it, and it probably would have been much, much more popular, except that a lot of Marshall output transformers got blown using it, and it wasn't because the Schultz Power Soak was a bad
See, I thought
product.
you were heading here.
It was because the Marshall transformers that they were making
yeah.
in the 70s were so bad, they were so easily damaged, that they would just go boop.
When you said certain amps, I'm like, yeah, I know where we're headed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen that where you just, turn on the standby switch on a Marshall with improper load on it, and you hear this little, and it's done. Output transformer is done. Doesn't even make any smoke. Just would just
Wow.
be done.
Yeah. It's like a little wisp.
Yeah, that's why all of our transformers are double insulated, and that means that they have 2 layers. The wire has 2 layers of varnish on them, 2 layers of coating, and it's a
That's awesome.
it's not the like it's not the nitrocellulose finish on the wire of old, because that stuff over time
Well, that deteriorates.
it
and-
deteriorates. What happens is the transformer gets hot, it gets cold, it gets hot, it's cold,
Well,
and the
look at
varnish.
nitro on a guitar.
Exactly. Yeah, it cracks.
Yeah.
And breaks down.
It's volatile.
So the coating, the insulation coating. Okay, Hobarodi, he's all like smart with form bar. The coating that's used on copper wire these days is much more elastic.
Yeah.
So it can withstand decades of expansion and contraction without breaking down like that.
That sounds great.
And
But
the
will
proof,
people complain and say that the transformers don't sound the same?
yeah, the proof of that is, you know what really makes them, I'm not even going to go there, what makes them sound different. It's really the precision with which each transformer is being wound that makes them behave differently.
You know what I'm thinking listening to you talk about this stuff? We need to do videos where you talk about loads. We need to talk about we need to do videos where you're talking about just transformers.
Yeah,
This is
because
great stuff.
Because you know what's really fun about the most recent last few years of product development, the last 10 years of product development, every new product we design becomes a piece of our test equipment to test the products that we use on them.
Yeah.
We use the power station to test power stations and all the other amps that we make.
Yeah, I know that. And you were like, this really should be test equipment for amp techs throughout the
and
world.
when amp
Just-
techs would contact you, what's the best piece of equipment that the most convenient or the most useful piece of equipment in your shop that you use? And I say the power station. They go, really? You're going to try to sell me a power station? I mean, I'm not a guitar player, but you're trying to sell everybody one of those stupid power stations. I'm like, no, it's our most useful, convenient, reliable piece of test equipment we have in the shop. It goes day after day after day. And let me tell you, we run one on the bench 8 hours a day. It's on, and not in standby mode. The power switch is on, the operate switch is on, a speaker jack is plugged into the back with the other end of the jack just hanging over a hook
You ain't
until we
lying.
plug it into an amp,
See it every
and
time
there's
there?
signal going into it 8 hours a day, and we've never blown an output transformer in a power station running it that way. Never.
First of all, that's cool, Buck. And I'm with you too. I need a few weeks to digest all that you just said.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, Brendan saying your power bill must be stuff of nightmares. Carrie, want to disclose? I'm kidding.
Sure. Actually, in California, I don't know how it is in other states, but in California, commercial electricity rates are probably a tenth of residential rates.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that.
We
Wow.
have 2 industrial air conditioning units, all the lights, the server cranking all day long, workstations with multiple soldering irons, all the lamps, and the fans for blowing the solder smoke, all the computer workstations.
Yep.
And not to mention, did you see the picture on Instagram that we posted at the
I
end
saw
of
that.
last week with all the power stations on a burn rack that sit overnight? I mean, it's insane. It's insane the amount of power we use. And the electricity bill is less than half of what I pay at home.
What?
Yeah.
It's less than half of
I'm
what
not
you
even
pay
exaggerating. We were thinking that when we moved in this new place,
I
that
live in a factory.
we're
right?
we're gonna get hammered by the electrical
Oh,
bill.
yeah.
And when we got the first bill, we were like, the accountant called up the power. Did you do this right? This can't be right.
Yeah.
No, it's right.
Wow. I guess we'll continue to do this.
I guess
then.
we will.
Yeah, your factory's great. Okay, a very important question. Brendan asks, is cereal soup? I've never thought of it as soup. It's its own, lives on its own island.
Is cereal soup?
It's better than soup. Well, I don't know. I love soup. You know what? Cereal is soup for the morning. It's morning soup.
Well, cereal is only soup if it's in a liquid, first of all,
You go around eating cereal with no.
all the
Liquid?
time.
What kind do you eat that
Oh,
with?
you know, like granola and stuff, you can snack on
Yeah,
it.
let's talk cereal.
Ah, well,
You carry around a box of
I don't
Captain
know. I don't
Crunch?
have any Captain Crunch in the cupboard anymore, so I don't know.
What's your favorite cereal?
Uh,
It's like kid cereal, not granola, which is great, but
kind of torn between Captain Crunch and Chocula.
Captain Crunch will tear the shit out of your mouth.
You
tried that
been
as
a
an
long
adult?
time.
Oh,
I
man,
haven't
I've
eaten.
had it in the last
I
10
haven't
years.
eaten commercial cereal, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
how
eat it
long.
often, but
Tricks.
Tricks.
Tricks are for kids.
you know, it's funny
And
when
for
I
a
get
person
into
like me that's never going to stop being a kid, I should probably take that to more to heart.
honeycomb. Yeah, you know, it's
Ooh,
funny.
I used to love honeycombs.
when the cereal discussion comes around, I start thinking. I'm
Okay,
gonna be
now he's
particular
giving
about it.
himself away. I Dream of Jeannie and Gilligan's Island.
Oh, well, that's. Who's talking about that?
Lou, honeycombs out of the
Oh,
box, watching Gilligan's Island.
Golden
You
Grams.
weren't watching Gilligan's Island. You were watching.
Is there an end to that?
Yeah.
You were watching. Golden Grams is at the top of my cereal mountain.
Okay. Who was your favorite? Who was your favorite in Gilligan's Island? Was it?
Oh yeah, Ginger
Ginger
or
Marianne.
Marianne, of course, Marianne.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Girl
course.
Next Door. He goes for the Girl Next Door every
Always.
time.
Yeah, still do. We can talk more about cereal, or we can move on.
Let's move on.
All right. I love talking cereal, though.
You know, we got to bring on a guest of honor pretty soon
I
here.
know. I just want to make sure that.
Mr. T cereal and ice cream.
You know what? I
cone.
never had the Mr. T cereal.
My favorite Mr. T moment was when David Letterman was trying to find out his last name. Oh my God! Did you see that? You remember?
No.
Oh,
Sounds great.
he was getting so pissed, and Dave just has his little smirk, you know.
I love Mr. T.
So what? You must have a last name. My name is Mr. T. No, well, yeah, but you know, I mean, everybody has. You were born with like, what's your real last name? My first name is Mr. My last name is T. Mr. T. And Dave.
Benny the Fool asked me
Yeah,
what my last name
and
is.
Dave is just like grinning. He goes, "Is there a Mrs. T?" And he's just getting steamed now. He's getting visibly steamed. Oh, it was just Google it. It's to die for. He's doing the same thing to Mr. T that he was doing to Cher when she called him an asshole. That was the stuff of legend.
Hey, quick question about the
Yes,
new support
sir.
form. Will you be able to upload pics and sound files?
We are going to have a support forum that works. And of course, we are going to want photos and sound files in order to have people clarify what their issues are. And let me tell you how many times lets us know when a problem is user error and when a problem is really a product problem. and it's great to be able to go, that's user error, that's a defective product, and be, okay, here's a return authorization, send it to us, we need to have that here. Anything we can do to streamline that and just get the thing done while everybody else wants to kibitz about impedance and cable types and all that stuff like that. I want people to have fun on the forum. And I find some of the forums to be really toxic out there, to the point where they aren't fun to kibitz about gear and get the inside stuff from not everybody out there that doesn't experience our stuff but weigh in on it anyway. I heard a friend of mine has one of these, dry and tight, blah 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 blah.
If it's like the people who show up for the Malcontents, it'll be great.
Yeah, you
Such a
guys,
great
you
crew.
guys would all, first of all, you'd all get along great, and the old Fry Users Forum was pretty good in that way, but it was clunky, and we actually weren't in control of it, which is not a bad thing. The guy who created it, we weren't even involved in the creation of the original Fry Users Forum.
Who built that?
That was Ralphie.
I never knew Ralphie. That sounds cool.
He's still around. Talked to him last week.
Yeah.
Trug. You're the guy that rocks, Mr. Go to Germany and like play in front of audiences where they're singing the lyrics to your songs, rock star. But Ralphie created that whole thing by himself.
That's amazing.
And
just out of like kind of fandom and wanting to help out.
Yeah. And we actually tried to get the original database and incorporate it into the new forum, but it was missing some pieces, and it would been too long. Since there was a missing part that.
Whoa.
There was a missing part that prevented us from importing it into the new software, and I don't know if that's going to get resolved or not. But given the fact that we've got so many new things going on and so many things to talk about, and it's going to generate an avalanche of new support questions, we just felt like we have to get that thing up and running now, because we need to be there for our people. So
gotta strike while the iron's hot.
That's right. So actually, it is functional to the effect that you can go on there and create your you can register and create your
So I could go on there.
Your profile now, and so
What'd you say?
support.fryette.com.
Great. All right. Is a 16 ohm wind heavier than a 4 ohm wind on a driver coil?
It would really depend on a guitar speaker. It's probably not that different. The wire diameter, I don't really know the answer to that, because that's the one thing that I didn't really push the suppliers that make our speakers to explain and justify and blah 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 blah. There's always this thing when you make a speaker that sounds good and it's a particular impedance. If you try to make a 4 ohm version of it or an 8 ohm version of it, the behavior is going to be different, and it isn't just the wire. It's all kinds of things have to change in order for that to work. So generally it's the inductance that really it changes. Of course, the inductance is going to change if you use less wire and larger diameter wire. So it could, in certain circumstances, or in some circumstances, it could be just that there are less turns, and it depends on how much power handling the speaker has to be able to manage. So it depends on everything. It's not just about 4 ohms versus 16. It's how much power of output of a speaker are we talking about? A 20 watts 25 watt speaker. I mean, those differences. The bigger, the more power the speaker, the more that's going to come into play. Whether they need to go to the next higher wire gauge to handle more
Okay.
power handling capacity. It's a similar thing in transformers. It's pickups and speakers and transformers are all kind of like birds of a feather. It's a lot of fun.
All right, a couple more questions, and then we got to bring on Niko-Chan.
The G is a little different. We don't really.
Oh, not that. Where are
The gentleman, Midnight Laundry, asking about the F70 versus F70G. The G is a little different. There are a couple subtle little things that make it different.
Wait.
We don't.
You jumped questions.
I just happened to see that, and I
This
just
one.
threw it out there because it was a nice, simple one. The things that make it different, we don't divulge because that's why we wanted it to be a specific thing for us. And the stock speaker that they make is really good sounding, but we had it tweaked a little bit to really work for our purposes. It's probably, I want to say it's a little smoother on the very top and probably a little rounder on the low mids. Subtle stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't. Rod is asking, can you explain the IP of a tube? I don't even know what that means.
Plate current.
Oh.
I is a symbol for current.
Oh, okay.
So when you say IP, you're saying current plate.
The per. Okay.
The IP, the plate current, is the current that the tube is idling at when it's set to a particular bias in a given amplifier with a given impedance at a given plate voltage. So, first of all, the tubes are manufactured to behave a certain way within a certain range. And once the tube is manufactured and tested, it's going to fall within a certain range of IP, which is the tube, first of all, has a design specification. It shall be this diameter, this length, have this many pins, plate material will be this, grid material will be this, spacing will be this. All these things are all defined.
Mm-hmm.
Once the thing is completed, it is compared to what's called a bogey, which is the reference tube. The tube is first designed by an engineer that they're going to try to accomplish a certain set of specifications in order to make it fit an application that at the time these were designed, manufacturers were asking for. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be able to do this. We want 6 pistons. We only want 4 pistons. We want 8 pistons. We want them smaller, and they're going to turn at higher RPM, so we want less mass, blah, 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 blah. Same thing with tubes. Then, once they are manufactured, the one that comes off of the line that's closest to the specifications set out for it becomes the bogey, becomes the reference point. And then after the reference is established, then there is a tolerance, plus or minus 20% of the bogey. And those are the tubes that they normally would ship and say, these are within spec, these are within tolerance. Mm-hmm. That was in the days of tube manufacturing when all that stuff, all those rules were adhered to. So the bogey under specific test conditions, 250 plate volts, X control voltage, screen grid voltage, X control grid voltage. Under these conditions, it will idle at X amps, milliamps actually. But I is an amp, and it's also an A. So current I is expressed in milliamps, MA. Small m, large A. So this tube, this EL34, will idle at this plate voltage at 35 milliamps. That's the IP of that tube. 35 milliamps plus or minus 20%. So 20% of 35 is 7, so 28 on the low side and 42 on the high side. So anything between 28 and 42 is considered good,
Okay.
acceptable. And then you would either have a factory set bias point where they're all supposed to operate within that range and we're all good to go, or you would have an adjustable bias so that you could take those tubes that operate anywhere from 35 to 40 milliamps, and we want them at 37 and a half, so we're going to set them here. That's the way it used to work. Then people who just make tubes for profit that don't want to follow any of the previously established guidelines because they're too strict and it's too expensive to do and it's tough, and they throw away too many defects. They came up with this brilliant new idea. Let's make them matched into pairs. Not only that, but we'll take the ones that are below the previously established specification and call those soft distortion.
Oh.
And we'll take the ones that are hotter than the
Did
original
Aspen Pittman
tolerance.
have anything to do with this?
He invented it. They would call those,
It's a brilliant businessman.
the clean ones. And yeah, that's where all that came from.
So
He figured out a way to sell the rejects and make them sound pretty.
yeah.
And God bless him and God rest his soul.
So Rod asked this question, but there's an addendum here that I think is what he's kind of getting at. And sorry, your power station showed up with broken tubes. That sucks. He's saying the power station arrived with the tubes broken. They came with a 40 IP. I ordered new tubes from Eurotubes, and those came with a 22 IP. Is this okay?
Let's see. Is it? It would help if I knew which power station and which tubes. PS2, PS100, 6550s, 6L6s. 22 is real low, and generally you see a low number like that from Shugong and JJ. That's usually the giveaway.
PS100.
Okay.
Rod is saying.
Yeah, that's going to be a JJ or Eurotubes usually sells JJ, and I've noticed that the JJs generally run on the low side. 32 is my minimum for JJs. 32.
So the 22s for the PS100 is not.
How you said your power station just arrived. Well, the power stations have tube retainers in them, so it must have taken a real hit. I would say that bears investigation, because for it to get hit in shipping hard enough to break the tubes, I would be looking for bent chassis parts, broken switches, little things like that. But if it came through all right and all you did was get a tube broken, wow.
Yeah, have you been able to run it so far at all? Have you powered it up?
Well,
with these
that,
new tubes?
if it came with, it says it came with broken tubes plural, so there's a part of me that says probably no sound came out of it.
Yeah.
He says,
so I'm
yes, it
wondering-
runs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, broken tubes.
The
If
bass
two
is-
power tubes are broken, you won't get any sound out of it unless it's in bypass. So, see, this is why I'm talking about the forum. This is where give it to us all in one little bowl. I want the milk, the Captain Crunch, the strawberries on top, and the teaspoon of sugar. I want it all in one bowl.
Yeah.
And then I can give you the answer all in one bowl. That it did have sound. Well, anyway, 22 is low. I would want to see those at 35 minimum. Crunch berries, yeah, babe. Okay, I think before we totally lose our shit, we're pretty close to that now. We need to like step this pony show, dog
Yeah,
and pony
we
show
have
up a
to.
little bit.
We have to wrap up the question portion and get our special guest Niko-Chan on. So we're at the 2 hour mark. which is normally when we bail.
Yeah. But we're not bailing because we have
No.
we still have special stuff to talk about.
Hey,
and
do you want to play Niko-Chan on with some special music?
Sure. Hit that switch on that power strip right there.
You mean the one that turns shit on?
Yeah, that one.
That's important. Look.
Actually, I turned that off, which means I turned off your power supply and your laptop too. So. Oh, okay. You do that. I'm gonna do this.
What are you gonna do? Are you gonna play the Stratocaster?
I'm gonna start by playing the Stratocaster.
I love that guitar.
I'm not even gonna tune it. How's that? You're not gonna hear us talk for a minute because I'm gonna turn off the talking mic and turn on my monitor so I can hear what I'm doing here.
So
Niko-Chan!
Is the mic on? Is the mic back on?
Yep.
What is that? Oh. Wow. Bad moon rising. Bad Niko-Chan rising. Niko-Chan's going away. Coming back again. Hello, Niko-Chan.
Hello, everybody. What's going on today?
I don't know what's going on today.
Well, what was the title of the tonight?
Oh.
What the title of tonight's show?
The title of the show tonight is Niko-Chan's Show and Tell Party.
What? What am I supposed to do here? It's
Oh.
been 2 hours. I'm drunk. I had a two Bloody Mary already.
Ooh.
Watching you guys.
Jerk off.
I don't know what am I supposed to do. You guys supposed to talk about the ZMAX today? Is it supposed to talk about the GPDI today? What?
And that's what you're here for.
What am I supposed to do now?
Tell us how we're doing with this.
What? What's this? Oh yeah, we just start shipping this. What's that? Cyclops?
So for you who have been
I'm
patient,
here for?
for you
That's it?
who have been
Thank you very much.
patiently or impatiently waiting for the Cyclops to show up, your prayers are being answered. So that was sure a little anticlimactic, but hey.
That's it? That's it? I'm done?
No, you're not done.
What am I supposed to do now?
Well, what else?
Next. What?
What else have people been on our ass about that we've been saying that we're going to have it?
What did you just play through?
What did I just play through?
Yeah.
I was playing through a tabletop desktop recording amplifier.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm playing through an actual final production approval sample of the GPDI IR.
GPDI IR.
Yeah.
You sure you're going to ship it?
Well, we think we are.
We've been waiting. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting.
I'm just gonna eat popcorn and watch you guys.
Okay?
You've been waiting. We've been waiting.
Yeah.
We're all been waiting.
Ooh! Ah! Wow! Look at that. It's like an PLIR and the GPDI
And Niko-Chan.
and Niko-Chan.
Let's see the top, because we sort of teased about this last week.
Yeah, this is super cool. And then can you explain what's going on there?
So what's going on in here is the previous GPDI had the tubes mounted horizontally on a separate board. So that board was sort of complicated to produce. That assembly was kind of complicated to produce, and it just was complicated in a lot of ways. It was labor intensive to produce. It had a lot of connectors that would introduce little bits of noise here and there and things like that. So I wanted to eliminate all that, so I wanted to stand the tubes up. But we already have the
So this is
we already have the carry bag for this and some other accessories that all go with this, so we couldn't change the size. So I had to redo it so that the tubes would be standing up and all the new electronics would fit in the size of the original cabinet, and the preamp tubes just stuck up above the top cover a little bit.
yeah.
So we made a tool to punch out the top where the tubes are so that they would have not only a vent grill for heat to come out, but it was raised above the top cover to protect the tube so that it couldn't be damaged by shipping damage or putting the cover on top of a tube that might have been too tall, because the height of tubes is all over the place with these different manufacturers.
What about if the spilled the alcohol on it?
Well, but that's the history of guitar amplifiers. You're supposed to pour drinks inside it, because that's how you can say it sounded great just before I spilled my drink in it. I was playing the best solo I ever played, and then it went up in smoke. That's
Oh, yeah.
what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, totally.
If you're going to sit your
That's why those vent was there?
if you're going to put your drink on top of your amp, you're going to have that.
That's how you get the
experience.
beer in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
great.
through that
Yeah.
vent.
Yeah.
Okay.
How else is you going to get beer in your
Yeah.
amp?
Yeah.
So
And your amp never sounds good until you've had beer in it.
that's right.
That's right.
Do you play good if you don't have beer in you? Of course not.
Well, I may not play great with beer in me, but I do play great when there's beer in the amp,
Well,
because
it
I
goes
can
both
say
ways.
it sounded killer before the smoke came out.
So, where was it? Wish the GPDI had foot switchable channels. Huh.
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 Well, we have what's new on the GPDI is it's got the IR loader in it, and it still has the analog cap sim for the clean sounds, which sounds amazing. And all of the amplifier controls are on the bottom row now. Gains, the 2 gain controls, the treble, middle, bass, the high and low gain mode, the Pitbull deliverance voicing switch, all that's the same. The tight, deep switch, all that's the same. The sag control, the dynamics knob is over on the far right now instead of over here before. And the overall master volume is over here now. And then the IR controls are up here. The analog cab controls are over here. So that's one thing. The next thing is it's got a whole new power supply, which is way lower noise. So there's no audible hum coming from the audio outputs.
So no
No
AC power cord.
It has an AC power cord.
Oh, so that one.
Yeah,
has
yeah.
AC power.
It uses a standard IEC just like it did before, except for now, it will run on 285 to 250 volts. So there isn't a separate European version or a Japan
Wow.
version or a US version.
So if I take in the GPDI IR, just put it in my bag and then go to Europe and then play gig, and I don't have to have a separate transformer.
Yeah, you can just carry around the bag, throw it in your carry-on, and then you can suck in Japan, you can suck in Europe, and you can suck in
With
the United
beer,
States.
without
with
beer,
your
it's all good.
schnapps, sake,
Schnapps.
name your poison.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so that's cool. We ditched the headphone app and replaced it with a couple of interesting new features. One of which is a foot switch that turns the less and more mode on and off. You're welcome.
Was it really necessary? Does the people really want the less and more switchable?
Foot
thing?
switch?
One of the
Switchable?
first comments when we brought the thing up is that wish it had a foot switch to change channels. It only has one channel, but that one channel has the more or less gain mode, so you can foot switch that. It's actually 2 foot switch functions. One of them.
Totally agree. The deliverance module. If you just set it up there, like, and if you can switch out of that more and less mode,
Yeah.
like you're solid.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's 2 foot switch functions. That's one of them. The other one is the external amp mode, which has a switch on the front or it's foot switchable from the back. And the external amp mode allows you to plug this into an amp that has an effects loop. So you can add this as a channel or 2 channels, 2 sounds to an existing amp that's already got an
So
effects
you-
loop in it.
Okay, I'm not a guitar player, but I ask you the stupid question.
Great.
As usual, okay, so ZMAX, you bring in the ZMAX now in the market.
Yeah.
So there's a 4 amps and then 4 cab, and then I can put the power station in there, and I can use the power station hook with the GPDI in there, so now I have a 5 amplifier. Can I do that?
Not only can you do that, you can
Good
put-
question.
That is a great question. You can put the power station in the ZMAX, and you can put the GPDI IR in the effects loop of the power station, and then you can add the GPDI sounds to any of the amps that you switch in the ZMAX.
that is so sick. Whoa!
What else have we got? Let's see. We've got the same direct out that we had before, which you could get this overdrive sound you want or whatever, and record your dry, unaffected track. Look at Lou
Yeah.
Woods, just exclamation points. That's his mind vaporizing.
Lou, you were also asking what I was drinking. This is the Cutwater Lime Margarita. There. Back to the
So
regular
you can
scheduled program.
play a tube buffered unity gain copy of the raw guitar performance
I use that.
into
then
a
you
track
reamp it
to
if you
reamp
want it.
later. The difference is this has got a full-blown reamp return circuit in it now, so it will reamp itself. You play the clean sound, not the clean sound, but the unaffected raw guitar performance sound on
Yeah.
a track, and then play that track back into the unit. It internally feeds the signal back to the input, and then you can dial in that sound whatever different way you want to dial it in to get the different sounds. The other thing
So
that
you don't need like a radial reamper anymore.
yeah, that's right. It all does it internally, and you can use it as a reamp or as a separate.
For
For-
other amps?
for other
That
stuff.
is so ridiculously great.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Let's see.
Especially since when you told me that was happening, I sold my radial box.
Well,
I knew I'd be using.
so what happens? What happens is you take your reamp track and plug it in here,
Uh-huh.
and it feeds it into the input, right? So that you can play the new sound out of the output,
Yes.
the IR output or the analog cab output,
Yeah.
but it still plays the dry, clean reamp signal
Out of the
direct
analog
amp,
out one
So
that's
you
always
can
been
send that to another amplifier. And
You
let's see.
understand that?
I do.
Right.
Because we talked about that a lot and I remember you called me, I was like in Georgia or something, and you were like, question. Should we get rid of the headphone amp and do this instead?
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
yes!
Yes. And
That's
you don't
super
have to have
important.
an XLR adapter to do it. It's also got a 1/4-inch jack that goes to the 2 amp input, which you can also use for the add a GPDI to your amp functionality.
And I've wanted to do that forever.
Okay, let's see. There's one more thing that all you GPDI fans have been asking for forever, and we resisted. And the reason we resisted is because we didn't have enough headroom in the amplifier circuitry to make that really work effectively. But the new power supply design has is much lower noise, has higher plate voltage. So the dynamic circuit works better, and the plate voltage of the tubes is higher. So now we have more dynamic range. We have a little bit more output power, more headroom, and a fuller sound. So now
The cleans.
we
are
can get away
really
with
nice.
putting an effects loop between the preamp and the power amp stage of the GPDI, which means that you could plug in another preamp into the effects return and use that preamp or a synergy module or whatever.
You sound like you're doing an infomercial now.
I'm just saying, I'm just
Do
telling you,
it.
hey,
Do it.
Is it the telephone numbers and down there and the people can call now?
Support.fryette.com.
yeah. So I think that's everything. Yep.
Can
That's-
you use this in tandem with a Sin 1 or Sin 2? That's a question that just came in.
You,
How would you do that?
You would plug. Well, it depends on what you mean by in tandem. But you could take the effects send of a Sin 1
Right.
or Sin 2 and plug it into the effects return of the GPDI and play your module into the power amp section of this,
Oh, yeah.
and then out into the IR out.
Oh, when I do
because the
videos
Sin
for this,
2
I'll
and
totally
Sin 1
do that.
don't have IRs. Those are analog cabs. So this way you could get not only a tube power amp that you can push a little hard to get a squish, and you can and then you could send that out via the IRs to your DAW. So yes, is that tandem enough for you? That's that.
Reinhardt.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this unit. I've been using the GPDI daily for my work for what, 9 years now? So, and I love that. I didn't necessarily need an update, but all of this stuff makes it essential.
Well, to get all that stuff to coexist in that little box has been a real challenge. But
Well, you didn't take the, was it 2015? Is that when it came out, or 2016?
2016, yeah.
You didn't take the 2016 GPDI and just do a couple tweaks. Like you
This
tore
is
it down
this is a
to the
clean,
ground.
This is a clean sheet of paper. We completely took everything that we learned from the GPDI and improved on every single aspect of it, from sound to functionality to assemblability, to producibility. And like, well, if it's so much easier to produce, then why haven't you been making it? Well, it took a while to get there. We had a pandemic, a crash.
That's called market research.
Market research.
That's
We
right.
put it in the market, and then we get the reaction from the people. So then, okay, now next time we can do this, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that, and so.
We learned a lot from the
Yeah.
GPDI, which was his whole original mission in the first place.
Steve Fryer is maybe genius, people say, but it's only one brain. Because if you're talking to a lot of people, to get a lot of reactions and opinions, then one brain is always one, but one and another brain makes the third idea.
And trust me, I'm not the only one at the company thinking of ideas and pushing back. We have people in our company pushing back just like you guys do when you go, well, but what about this? But what about this? But what about this? We go through those scenarios all day long.
Yeah, so.
So our team is not just me thinking of stuff and everybody else making it happen. Our team is, everybody is involved.
You also do the toilet clean too. Yeah.
That's you? I didn't know that about you.
I do a bit of that, sure.
I've seen you sweep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll sweep. I'll definitely sweep.
Okay, so what else? So
Tell us a story about your childhood, Niko-Chan.
my childhood.
Yeah. What was it like being a little bumblebee in Japan?
Bumblebee in Japan, I don't remember because I've been having the two glass of.
Did you drink it all away?
Yes, I
All right.
did.
What's it like being a big bumblebee in the United States?
Oh well, it's great. I think I smuggled into the United States about 30 years ago. I think.
Yeah?
Oh my God, it's been 30 years.
30
and,
years? You still sing the blues? I don't, you don't have to now,
do
but.
you, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Oh, I would
yeah.
love
Oh,
you to.
yes.
Nah.
Come
I'm shy.
on, let's have a little summertime.
Summertime. That's it. Thank you very
You
much. All right. So what else we have? Well, the people didn't realize we had a ZMAX sitting in the back of.
Oh, I
Yeah,
will
the-
point this out.
Nobody said anything last
The last
time.
show.
The last episode,
This has been up here.
that was
for a
sitting up there.
And we thought, oh, we'll put a little Easter egg up there, see if anybody calls it out. I mean, I think it's kind of washed out, and
Yeah,
that's
it's washed
why.
out, so that's
Yeah.
why people
But
couldn't
yeah,
really
it's
realize.
been up there for a minute.
Yeah. Entire show last time it was there, so nobody catched it. So,
Oh, in Michael Nielsen's video, he had the power station in a rack head case,
Yeah.
and a bunch of people asked about it. So that's the rack head case up there underneath the ZMAX. That's the power station in the rack head case that Michael Nielsen was also using, and that is in stock and that is available. So that's another
yeah,
one.
they're available, but we are not put on our web store right now
Oh,
because
okay.
we are really, really, really busy in the show handed. it's really difficult to process the web order right now, so we are.
It's hard to do when you're drunk all the time too, Niko-Chan.
Well, I work ass
saying.
off and then come home and then.
Work
and then
hard,
get
play
drunk.
hard?
Yeah.
I know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then you sing the blues in the clubs at night.
Scott, good one. You have a whip store?
Whip store.
I love our people.
Oh, I know.
love our people.
Okay, so.
Anything else?
ZMAX, the people been asking, can I Daisy Chain ZMAX?
Oh,
Yes.
hell yeah.
Yes, you can. So you plug into the input. You plug into the input, which sends the signal to the 4 sends that go to the 4 amplifiers on the back. And you also have a jack on the back. You'll see it in the
This is
videos
Link.
that says link right here. And that is a transformer isolated, buffered out that you send to another switcher. And so that switcher will do whatever it's supposed to do, and this one will do what it's supposed to do. So, for example, let's say you already have something that has 4 or 8 heads and 4 cabs. You could link.
So the KHE, is that the one?
That's
what it's called?
one. There's
Yeah.
Ampe's got one. So you could plug into this one first and link it to the other ones.
What about the ZMAX linking?
Oh yeah, I talked about that in
Yeah.
my
I
video.
want 2
Yeah.
ZMAX,
You
or
can-
3 ZMAX, or 4 ZMAX. Can I have a 5
Yep.
ZMAX?
Yep. You can.
Hell
have
yeah.
5. Yep.
Okay.
The trouble is that there's only a certain number that you can link together and have the cabs all get sourced by different amps. So what you would do, if linking a couple of these together, you'd have 4 amps in one unit and 3 amps in another unit. You would link them together and put the 3 amps in the second one and the 4 cabs in the second one and no cabs in the first one. And then you would use the one of the head returns of the second unit to get the signal from one of the one speaker cab SEM on this one would go to one of the amp returns on the other unit.
Got it.
And then that would process the 4 amps that you have plus the 3 amps in the other one and give you the impedance matching and the effects loop and all of that stuff.
Did you
So-
really get it? Did you? Because I don't.
That's okay,
Bring
Niko-Chan.
Well, see, this
I'm
is
drunk.
why this is going to take like 4 to 6 videos.
Right, totally. While we're here, because I think this was a question on the video that I made, talking about using multiple amps at once. Remember seeing that? Can you address that?
You cannot use multiple amps at once.
What? What?
Okay, so
What kind of amp designer are you?
Yeah, seriously. What? No.
Ah!
You can't. You can parallel cabs, and this will do that. But I don't know of an amp switcher that you can parallel amps. You can't run 2 different amplifiers together in parallel and combine them. You can combine the line outs.
Right.
You can run the amps into
But that's
a load.
what this is doing to the cat with the cabs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, again, then if I can use a power station and use a I'm sorry, I'm drunk. So I can 4 amplifier plus the 5th one goes to the power stations. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Then I can do the power station. One amplifier is placed together with the one playing in the power
Yeah,
station.
the second unit would have the power station in it, or
So
you
they
could
can
have
play
you could have an
together.
attenuator in one and a different attenuator in another one. I mean,
Lou is saying that Niko-Chan is the voice of the people. But I think if you were really being the voice of the people, you'd be asking questions like, can I sound like Eddie Van Halen if I take it?
That's
Well, it
gonna
sounds
be
just
my
like
next,
Jimi
next
Hendrix.
question. Yeah. Can I make a brown sound out of that?
You need to make a box called the Brown Sound.
Well, I think the most exciting thing about this is we got all of this in one rack space, and that was my
It's
goal.
pretty incredible,
Why
man.
you didn't do the 8x4 or 16x16
Alright,
or
that's fair.
24x20?
I'll tell you exactly why. You want to know
Okay.
exactly why?
Yes.
I'll tell you exactly why. We've never done a product like this before, and I wanted to know if the concept even had legs before we started committing serious engineering money into more sophisticated software programming.
But you know what? I know this about you because the things that you've been rolling out kind of show this. If the desire is there, you'll do it.
If the demand is there, sure, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
That's
this
what I
is
meant.
this is more like the live artist. Then they can put there's a people use a multiple amplifier on the stage, so that's good for the people using the multiple amplifier on the stage. But the,
I mean, I'm sure people.
I'll
have-
use that in the studio.
I'm sure people have like
Or
wicked
my
man caves
recording
or
room.
studios with multiple amplifiers. I don't think that that's the majority of people. I think that there's people that for whom this is just the right amount of flexibility and
For me, it
functionality.
is. For me, it is.
Now, there a
But I'm
couple
not Tim Pierce.
couple of fun tricks is, as I said before, this design is patent pending, so we're going through the patent process right now, which means nobody else has any brains is going to jump in before they know whether or not the patent office is going to approve our patent. But in the meantime, there is a very simple way to take this and put this into other amp switchers and get the impedance matching functionality out of it. So that's something to think about if you've already invested, and we're sensitive to the fact that you've probably invested significant money in a rig that's all wired up and is settled, and you don't really want to mess with it, but you want these additional features, and we're going to, as we're developing the manual and the use cases and all of that, we're going to show you how you can take advantage of those and make it work for your application. That's
Yeah, but-
really what this is all about, is
yeah, but people wants to
raising the game, right?
Yeah.
How many amp you wanted to use at one time? You wanted to have 6 or 8 or 4x4 is enough?
Myself?
Yeah.
4 is more than I need
Okay.
because I don't own 1,000,000 amps.
Uh-huh.
But having,
For me, 2 and a power load is pretty much it.
yeah. As I was doing the ZMAX video, I was having my ideas of how I would use it come out as I was shooting
Uh-huh.
the video. So I was really excited about it.
How many guitar you have?
Not that many. I don't
Okay,
know.
well there's
4 or 5.
4, 5.
But you know, I'm not one of those people who runs 1,000,000 amps, but having 2 or 3 at my
Yeah.
disposal and not, here's the thing for me, is this is gonna sound like I'm a heretic, but I don't like
How
messing with
can a
gear.
person talking to a bee sound like a heretic anyway?
I just sound like a moron, but I am that. So,
Well,
but
you are an active players. You does a lot of the sounds.
yeah, I mean, I'm small time, but
Yeah,
I
but
got a
there's
lot of work, and I have to get
collectors
it done.
But
just
you're
so-
big time talking to
You
a
know
sock
what?
puppet bee.
I am.
Guitar collectors, also the amplifier collectors are like.
Oh, you know what? That's another thing on my video. I shot this and then I cut it out of the video because I didn't want to make it long. But that's another part of the ZMAX. It's just sitting around with your friends in your man cave or whatever, just goofing around going, hey, we all have, these same greenback loaded cabs of the same era. Let's figure out which one sounds best. And instead of like having to pluck, you can just be like, dude, hit an E for an hour and a half. We're just going to go. It's just that ease. And for me, and with my workflow, that's really exciting for me is not having to, keep changing things out. It's just boop, 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 boop.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm
that-
thrilled about that.
That you are talking as an active guitar player.
Mhm.
How many glasses do you have? You're wearing glasses. How many glasses do you have? How many pair of glasses?
I have two.
Oh, you only have two?
Yeah.
I think I have like 6.
Why do you
See?
have 6?
Why?
Yeah.
Fun.
For fun?
Yeah.
See,
And then-
that's the thing.
That's
There's.
the thing. So there's an active player.
Yeah,
also,
4.
There's the collectors. They just wanted to enjoy, not because plays showing to other people or playing on the stage or recording.
Absolutely.
But I want to play like 8 or 10 or 20 amplifier all day long because it's a it's a masturbation. It's a pretty much.
Yeah.
I
I
listen-
think it's great for that too.
Yeah, so the 4x4 is not enough for me.
Then you'll have to buy more.
Okay, Steve Fryer makes the 24x24.
Yeah.
How many rack sizes would
really.
that take?
Yeah, well, Michael Torn, I don't know if you're still here, but he asked, he says, yeah, I know,
Oh,
I need one that'll
Michael.
switch 40 heads. So,
Because he's the.
well, we haven't
rack.
reached that level of psychopathic behavior
this is
yet, but we're
almost
getting
for-
there.
this
By the
is-
way, Scott, it does have a passive input. I mean, like, who are we anyway if we don't put a passive input in it? So, yeah, it has an active and a passive input.
So this is kind of like proof of concept.
Yes.
To test the waters and see what people think, if they want it, if they
Yeah.
want more, and then you'll figure that out.
Okay, well, we already
from there.
figured out they want more because we already sold out twice as many as we initially planned to make in the first run.
Congrats! I didn't
So
know
I
that.
guess,
So tonight we are showing the GPDI IR and then ZMAX.
And that you've been shipping
and that we've been
Cyclops
shipping
for
Cyclops.
4 weeks or however.
Okay, the one more question.
no, wait a minute, I want to have, I wanted to answer Scott's question. Yes, you can bypass the buffer. Trug, I'm just drinking lemonade with vodka in it. Compliments of Niko-Chan, the most amazing bartender on the planet. And Chris, I don't know, it's what means. And
That's it.
and I like our Guitar 78's comment. Let's demand another run of classic 2100s. I can dream.
Ooh.
We can all dream.
Yeah.
If you can dream that demand, I can make that dream come true.
So the new product release party tonight, wasn't it?
Oh, and we had the rackhead case.
Yeah, that's gonna be available in your dealers, and then
And
huh?
Chris, that's exactly what Niko-Chan
What?
said.
what's what,
That's why I was
Oh.
chuckling.
The foot switch.
the foot.
Foot switch for the Cyclops.
Huh?
Cyclops, where is the Cyclops is a singular with a one eye. So the more than 2 Cyclops, 2 eyes. So that's going to be what Cyclops is?
I think it's Cyclopi, isn't it?
Cyclopi?
Cyclopi.
Cyclops.
One Cyclops. One
It's like-
Cyclops is Cyclops. 2 Cyclops is Cyclopi.
What? Okay.
We'll leave you
everybody,
with that.
Google it.
Let's get the
everybody.
hell out of here.
Google.
Well,
What's
we're behind.
The plural of Cyclops. Yeah.
Plural is, yeah.
Maybe I should drink some old fashions when I watch you all. You should absolutely drink old
Yeah,
fashions. I should be drinking an old
So the
fashioned right
next
now.
time we're going to talk about the new product, it's going to be what?
Next time? In
next
2
time.
weeks? What are we going to talk about?
Not the 2 weeks, but the next time I'm coming in here for the new product release.
It'll be the new
Hi.
Fryette cereal that's going to be released.
Yes.
You can come on for that.
Okay.
Frya Chocula.
Ooh. The brown flavor.
Has
Brown
anybody made a
sound,
peanut
brown-
butter cereal yet?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
They have the
guess so.
peanut butter. At Trader Joe's, there's that Gorilla Crunch.
Oh,
yeah.
oh, that sounds horrible. Okay.
So ZMAX gonna be? What, Ultra Lead next time?
We're gonna start talking about the Ultra Lead very, very soon. now.
Yeah,
Oh!
Michael Nielsen's video, some people was like, okay, ZMAX fine, but what about the Ultra Lead? Pleasure.
Hey, it's no pressure. It's what we do for fun,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
right?
All right.
Thanks for hanging with us, guys and girls and ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
that's right. Peanut butter Captain Crunch. Hell yeah.
And
All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. Thanks for
Bye.
hanging out, and we're out.
Good night.